You never think it'll happen to you. You never believe that the person you love, the one you trust more than anyone in the world, would be capable of betraying you. But reality has a way of creeping up on you, planting little seeds of doubt that you try your best to ignore. Until one day, the truth is staring you right in the face, and you realize you've been living a lie. For months, I ignored the signs. At first, they were subtle. A glass left out on the counter when I distinctly remembered washing all the dishes before bed. The faint scent of unfamiliar cologne hanging in the air, just strong enough for me to notice, but never strong enough to make me question Lisa, my wife of 6 years. I told myself I was imagining things. Then came the more noticeable changes. Lisa had always been affectionate, the kind of woman who would kiss me on the cheek when I walked through the door after a long day at work. But lately, her kisses felt different, quicker, less meaningful. She would pull away before I could wrap my arms around her. She started going to bed earlier than usual, claiming she was exhausted, leaving me alone in the living room to finish my late-night work emails. At first, I didn't think much of it. We were both busy. I worked long hours as an account manager, and she had recently taken on more responsibilities at her job, which meant later nights at the office. But then came the nights when I would wake up around 3 a.m. and find her side of the bed empty. At first, I thought maybe she had gone to get a glass of water, but when I got up to check, I'd find her sitting in the dark living room, phone in hand, screen glowing in the dim light. She would quickly lock her phone the moment she saw me. "Can't sleep?" I asked the first time I caught her. "Just checking work emails," she had replied, forcing a smile. "Go back to bed, babe." It was a reasonable excuse, but then it started happening every night, always around 3 a.m. And each time, she looked more and more nervous when I walked into the room. Something wasn't right. I tried to push it out of my mind. Maybe it was just stress. Maybe I was reading into things too much. But then I started noticing things moving around the house. I had a habit of leaving my laptop on the coffee table before heading to bed. Suddenly, I would wake up to find it placed neatly on the bookshelf instead. The TV remote, which I always left on the couch, would sometimes be on the dining table in the morning. One night, I could have sworn I heard soft whispers coming from the living room. At first, I thought Lisa was on a late-night call, but when I got up to check, the room was empty. That was the night I decided I needed answers. I ordered a hidden camera the next day. I told myself I was just being paranoid, that I would install it and find nothing, that it would put my mind at ease. But deep down, a part of me knew. I just wasn't ready to accept it yet. The camera arrived 2 days later. I didn't tell Lisa. I felt guilty at first. After all, I wasn't the kind of man who spied on his wife. But the nagging feeling in my gut told me I had to do this. The device was small, barely larger than a bottle cap. I hid it between the books on the living room shelf, angled perfectly to capture the entire room, including the front door and the hallway leading to our bedroom. I set it up with my phone, configured the motion sensor, and activated the night vision. Then I waited. That night, I went to bed as usual, pretending like nothing was wrong. Lisa was already under the covers, facing away from me. I stared at the ceiling in the dark, my heart pounding. Would I finally get answers? Or was I really just losing my mind? At some point, I must have drifted off because the next thing I knew, I was waking up in the middle of the night. 3:06 a.m. Lisa's side of the bed was empty. I kept my breathing steady, listening. The house was silent. No footsteps. No whispers. I reached for my phone and opened the app connected to the camera. A red notification flashed at the top of the screen. Motion detected, 3:02 a.m. My pulse spiked as I clicked on the video. The footage loaded, and there it was, Lisa stepping into the living room, her phone in her hand, glancing over her shoulder as if to make sure I wasn't following. She looked nervous. She paced back and forth for a moment, then stopped in front of the front door. My stomach tightened as she reached for the handle. Was she leaving? No. She unlocked the door and cracked it open. My heart slammed against my ribs. Lisa peered outside for a second before stepping back. Then, out of the shadows, a figure entered my home. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. The figure moved quickly, closing the door behind him without making a sound. He was tall, wearing dark clothes. His face was turned away from the camera, but I could see Lisa's expression. She was smiling. She whispered something to him. He pulled her into a hug. Then, before I could even process what I was watching, she kissed him. I sat up in bed, my body ice cold. I wanted to storm out of the room, to confront her right then and there. But I forced myself to stop. I didn't even know who the man was. The angle of the footage hadn't caught his face. I needed more proof. So I laid back down, gripping my phone so hard my knuckles turned white, and waited for morning. When Lisa climbed back into bed an hour later, I pretended to be asleep. I could feel her presence beside me, her warmth, her breathing steady, like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just let another man into our home at 3 a.m. I kept my eyes closed, my body rigid. Tomorrow, I told myself. Tomorrow, I would find out who he was. And then, I would make them both regret ever thinking they could betray me. Morning came, but I felt like I hadn't slept at all. Lisa acted completely normal, like nothing had happened. She greeted me with a soft, good morning, kissed my cheek, and went about making coffee. I watched her from across the kitchen, trying to keep my expression neutral. It took everything in me not to confront her right then and there. But I needed more information. I needed to know who the man was. Sleep well? She asked, pouring herself a cup. Yeah, I lied. You? She nodded, sipping her coffee. Yeah, just got up to get some water in the middle of the night. Been feeling dehydrated lately. I forced a smile. She was lying to my face. I clenched my fist under the table, pretending to check my phone. But in reality, I was staring at the camera footage again. Watching them. The way she kissed him. The way she let him into my home. I needed to know his identity. That evening, I set up a second camera. This time, it was aimed directly at the front door. I activated the motion detection, made sure the footage would save automatically to a backup drive, and went to bed, pretending like everything was normal. Lisa followed soon after, curling up beside me. I stared at the ceiling, waiting, and then, like clockwork, at 3:07 a.m., I heard it, the soft creak of the bedroom door opening. Then silence. I waited 5 minutes before checking my phone. Another notification. Motion detected, 3:02 a.m. I clicked the video. Lisa, once again, tiptoed into the living room, checking over her shoulder. She unlocked the door, and the man entered. But this time, I had a clear shot of his face. And when I saw it, my breath caught in my throat. It wasn't just anyone. It was my best friend. I sat there, staring at my screen, unable to move. Ethan, the guy I had known since college. The man who had stood beside me at my wedding. The person I had trusted like a brother. And he was standing in my home, smiling at my wife like he belonged there. I felt my heartbeat in my ears. The footage continued. Lisa and Ethan whispered, sharing quiet laughter before he pulled her into a hug. Then they sat on my couch, talking, for almost an hour. Not just some quick meeting. This was routine. They were comfortable. Familiar. This had been going on for a long time. And I had been completely blind to it. I turned off the video and stared at the wall. I needed to breathe. I needed to think. Storming out of the room right now would accomplish nothing. No, this wasn't just about catching them. This was about ending this in a way they would never forget. I wasn't just going to expose them. I was going to make sure they regretted ever thinking they could betray me. And I already knew exactly how to do it. I don't remember falling asleep. When I opened my eyes, the morning sunlight was creeping through the blinds, filling the bedroom with an eerie glow. Lisa was still curled up beside me, sleeping soundly, completely unaware that everything had changed. I felt numb. For 6 years, I had loved this woman. I had built a life with her, shared my dreams, my struggles, my victories. And all this time, she had been lying next to me, keeping him close behind my back. I stared at her, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest, and I felt something inside me snap. I couldn't pretend anymore. I couldn't go another day playing the role of the oblivious husband. I needed to act. A plan for the truth. I got out of bed quietly, careful not to wake her. My mind was working overtime, playing out different scenarios. If I confronted her now, she would lie. She would twist the truth, turn the blame onto me, make excuses. And Ethan? He would deny everything, like the coward I now knew he was. No, I needed more than just my own knowledge. I needed undeniable proof, the kind that would leave them speechless. So I started preparing. First, I backed up all the camera footage to an external drive. Every second, every whisper, every glance. Then I took things a step further. I bought another hidden camera, one with audio this time. I placed it carefully in the lamp by the couch, where they always sat together. If I was going to take them down, I needed every piece of evidence possible. Because when I finally confronted them, I wanted to watch them fall apart. Another night, another betrayal. That evening, Lisa acted like nothing was wrong. She made dinner, asked about my day, laughed at something on TV. I played along, keeping my emotions buried deep, watching her closely. Every touch, every glance, It all felt fake now. But the moment I said I was going to bed early, I caught something in her eyes. A flicker of hesitation, like she was waiting for me to leave. I bit my tongue and walked into the bedroom, closing the door behind me. Then I waited. Minutes turned to hours. And then, at exactly 3:08 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected, 3:02 a.m. I opened the live feed, my breath slow and steady. There she was, Lisa, sneaking out of the bedroom like a ghost, her movements quiet, careful. She walked into the living room, just like before, unlocked the door, and let him in. But this time, I could hear them. The conversation that changed everything. The new camera's microphone picked up their whispers. Ethan, he doesn't suspect anything? Lisa, soft laughter, he's completely clueless. I clenched my jaw. Ethan, you sure? I don't want to risk anything. Lisa, sighs, he's so busy with work, Ethan. He barely notices when I get up at night. Besides, if he did suspect anything, don't you think he would have said something by now? A pause. Ethan chuckles, I guess you're right. Lisa, we just have to be careful a little longer. Ethan, yeah. Well, you know what would make things easier? Lisa, what? Ethan, quietly, if you just left him. My heart stopped. Lisa didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer, hesitant. It's not that simple. Ethan, why not? We've been doing this for months. Months. I felt sick. Lisa sighed. Because, Ethan, he pays for everything. The house, the bills, my lifestyle. If I leave now, I'll have nothing. I need to be smart about this. Ethan laughs. Smart? So what? Stay with him. Keep lying to his face until you can take what you need. Lisa smirks something like that. Ethan, that's cold. Lisa whispers you love it. I squeezed my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. That was it. That was all I needed to hear. Lisa wasn't just betraying me. She was using me. I had given her everything, and in return, she had planned to throw me away like I was nothing. But she had no idea. No idea that I was watching, listening, that I now had everything I needed. And soon, so would everyone else. The first step of revenge. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I went over my plan again and again, making sure every detail was in place. By morning, I was ready. I had 3 goals. Destroy their trust in each other. Expose them publicly. Walk away on my own terms, with everything Lisa wanted to take from me. And it would all start tonight, with one final dinner together. I spent the entire day pretending I was still the same clueless husband. Pretending I had no idea that my wife and my best friend were meeting behind my back at night. Pretending I wasn't holding back an avalanche of emotions with every passing second. Lisa had no idea. She went about her day as usual, completely unaware that the foundation of her double life was about to crumble beneath her feet. But before I set everything in motion, I had to take care of one last detail. I invited Ethan over for dinner. The invitation that set the trap. I sent the text in the morning. Me, hey man, it's been a while. Lisa and I were thinking of having you over for dinner tonight. Just the 3 of us. Thought it'd be good to catch up. His response came quickly. Ethan, yeah, man, that sounds great. What time? I smirked at the irony of his excitement. I told him to come by at 7 p.m. Lisa, of course, had no idea. I wanted to see her panic. I wanted to watch her scramble to keep her lies intact, while sitting between the 2 men she had been playing like fools. And most of all, I wanted to see the moment she realized that she had lost everything. The calm before the storm. That evening, I came home from work early. Lisa was in the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared dinner, completely at ease. I leaned against the doorway, watching her. She glanced up, smiling. Hey, you're home early. Everything okay? I forced a casual smile. Yeah, just thought I'd spend some extra time with my wife. Her eyes softened, and for a brief moment, I wondered if she ever truly loved me, or if it was all just an illusion. I stepped forward, wrapping my arms around her from behind, my chin resting on her shoulder. I felt her body stiffen slightly at the unexpected affection. Smells good, I murmured. You always make the best meals. She laughed softly. Trying to sweet-talk me into doing the dishes later? I chuckled. Maybe. Inside, I was seething, because this felt real. It felt like the way we used to be before everything fell apart. But I knew better now. The moment she realized the game was over. At exactly 7 p.m., the doorbell rang. Lisa frowned, wiping her hands on a towel. Who could that be? I shrugged. keeping my face neutral. Why don't you get it? She walked to the front door, and the moment she opened it, her entire body went rigid. Because standing there was Ethan, holding a bottle of wine, completely unsuspecting, a friendly grin on his face. "Hey, Lisa," he said casually, stepping inside. I watched her face closely. The slight widening of her eyes, the twitch in her jaw, the forced smile that took just a second too long. She glanced at me, searching for an explanation. I simply smiled back. "Come on in, man," I said, gesturing toward the dining table. "Hope you're hungry." Lisa followed behind slowly, her steps hesitant. Ethan, oblivious to the tension in the air, sat down across from me. Lisa hesitated, then took the seat between us. And just like that, the three of us sat at the same table. The husband, the wife, and the best friend who had been sneaking into my house at 3 a.m. Let the games begin. Watching them crumble. The first few minutes were painfully awkward. Lisa barely touched her food, too focused on glancing nervously between Ethan and me. Ethan, on the other hand, was completely at ease, making small talk, laughing like nothing was wrong. I let it go on for a while. Let them get comfortable. Then, I decided to strike. I set down my fork, leaning back in my chair. "You know, Ethan," I said, keeping my voice light, "it's funny. I've been having trouble sleeping lately." Lisa's fork clattered against her plate. She quickly picked it up, but I saw her fingers trembling. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah? That sucks, man. Stress from work?" I shook my head. "No, it's weird. I keep waking up around 3 a.m. every night." Silence. Lisa's hand gripped her wine glass so tight I thought it might shatter. Ethan let out a nervous chuckle. "Yeah, that's strange." I nodded. "Yeah, really strange." So, I decided to do something about it. I pulled out my phone, tapping the screen. Lisa's breath hitched. Ethan's smile faltered. I turned the phone around, showing the paused footage from last night. Lisa, standing at the front door. Ethan, stepping inside. Her kissing him. The color drained from Lisa's face. Ethan stiffened, his entire body going rigid. I leaned forward, placing the phone in the center of the table. "So," I said calmly, "who wants to explain first?" The explosion. Lisa was the first to react. She shoved back her chair, standing up so quickly the wine glass tipped over. "Listen," she started, her voice shaky. But I held up a hand. "Sit." She froze. I had never spoken to her like that before. Slowly, she lowered herself back into the chair, her face pale. Ethan cleared his throat. "Look, man," I cut him off with a single glare. Then, I pulled out another piece of paper from my pocket. Lisa's divorce papers. I placed them neatly beside my phone. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Ethan looked between us, realization dawning on his face. I wasn't just exposing them. I was ending everything right here, right now. Lisa's lip trembled. You already prepared everything?" I finished for her. "Yeah, I did. The house, the finances, the lawyer. I've had it all lined up for days." She gulped. Ethan pushed back his chair, as if he wanted to run. But there was nowhere to go. I picked up my phone again, playing the next recording. The one with audio. Their conversation. Their plans. The part where Lisa admitted she was using me. The part where Ethan told her to leave me. And I watched them break. Lisa covered her mouth, shaking her head. Ethan turned pale, his hands gripping the edge of the table. I took a slow sip of my drink, watching them squirm. Then I stood up, looking down at them. "You two deserve each other," I said quietly. "And you know what? You can have each other." Lisa blinked up at me, tears pooling in her eyes. "Wait." But I was already walking away, already stepping outside, already free. I walked out the front door and didn't look back. For the first time in months, I felt free. No more lies. No more paranoia. No more waking up at 3 a.m. to find my wife sneaking around in the dark. But I wasn't finished yet. Lisa and Ethan thought the worst was over. They had no idea that their real nightmare was just beginning. Burning bridges. I got in my car, gripping the steering wheel, my heart pounding from the adrenaline. I had spent weeks preparing for this moment. I had already spoken with my lawyer. Lisa's divorce papers were rock solid. No loopholes, no chance for her to take anything more than what was legally required. I had already secured the house in my name before she could even think about fighting for it. I had frozen our shared accounts the moment I left the table. And Lisa? She had no idea. By the time she would think to call a lawyer, she'd realize she had nothing left to fight for. But that was just phase one. The fallout begins. Not even 10 minutes after leaving, my phone started vibrating. Lisa calling. I ignored it. A few seconds later, Ethan calling. I smirked. Declined. Then came the text messages. Lisa, please, just talk to me. Let me explain. Ethan, dude, we need to talk. This got out of hand. Lisa, I made a mistake, okay? But I never wanted to lose you. Ethan, bro, come on. Don't do this. We've been friends forever. I stared at the screen, shaking my head. Now they were panicking. They weren't expecting me to walk away so easily. They thought I would yell. They thought I would break down, beg Lisa to stay, fight for her. They thought I would punch Ethan in the face and give him the satisfaction of a reaction. But no, I did the one thing cheaters fear the most. I left them to deal with the mess they created, alone. The public exposure. The next morning, I took things a step further. I sent the footage to our closest friends. Not out of revenge. Not because I wanted to be petty, but because I refused to let them control the story. I refused to let Lisa play the victim, to let Ethan make excuses, to let them twist things and paint me as the villain. By noon, the entire friend group knew. Lisa and Ethan had nowhere to hide. I didn't check my phone for hours. But when I finally did, the messages made me laugh. Our friends were furious. Lisa, why would you do this to me? I thought you wanted to handle this privately. Ethan, dude, you just ruined my life. Everyone is turning against me. People at work are finding out. WTF? Lisa, you're being cruel. I know I hurt you, but this is too much. Ethan, you need to tell people the full story. Bro, tell them you weren't the perfect husband either. That last message almost made me choke on my coffee. I had been faithful. I had given Lisa everything. I had been loyal to Ethan as a friend for years. And now? He wanted to rewrite history to make himself feel better. I didn't bother responding, because it didn't matter anymore. The truth was out, and they were drowning in it. The desperation begins. By the third day, Lisa was begging. Her messages had changed from anger to regret. Lisa, I messed up. I know that. I don't want to lose you completely. Please, can we talk? Lisa, I never loved Ethan the way I love you. It was just a mistake, a stupid mistake. Lisa, I don't even want to be with him. It was never serious. You're the one I really want. The audacity. Ethan, on the other hand, he was furious. Ethan, dude, you just cost me my relationship. Ethan, people are calling me a backstabber. This is getting out of control. Ethan, be a man and stop playing the victim. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I laughed at that one. I didn't cost him anything. He made his choices. He betrayed his best friend. And now, he was paying the price. The final blow. I was already moving on with my life. The divorce was in progress. The house was legally mine. My accounts were secure. Lisa had moved out within a week, taking only the bare minimum with her. And Ethan? He was struggling, not just with our friends cutting him off, but with his own reputation at work. Word had spread. People didn't trust him anymore. And I made sure his boss found out exactly the kind of man he was. By the end of the month, Ethan lost his promotion. And Lisa? Well, she tried reaching out one last time. Lisa, I miss you. Lisa, I don't even talk to Ethan anymore. It was a mistake. Please, can we meet? Lisa, I still love you. I stared at her messages, then deleted them without replying. Game over. The new beginning. It's been 3 months now. I've moved on. I'm focusing on myself, my career, my happiness. Lisa and Ethan are just bad memories now. And the best part? The next time I wake up at 3 a.m., I won't have to wonder what's happening in my own home, because for the first time in a long time, I know I'm finally free. Some betrayals hurt, but some endings? They're exactly what you need. I thought I was done. I thought Lisa and Ethan would disappear from my life, left to deal with the consequences of their own selfish choices. But people like them? They never go down without a fight. And I wasn't finished watching them fall apart. Lisa's descent into desperation. A month after she moved out, Lisa started showing up unannounced. It started small, messages, missed calls. I ignored every single one. Then, one evening, as I pulled into my driveway, I saw her car parked down the street, just sitting there, waiting. I took my time getting out of the car, pretending not to notice, but my pulse was pounding in my ears. I walked to my front door, unlocked it, and before I could step inside "Can we talk?" I turned around. Lisa stood at the edge of my driveway, hands tucked into the sleeves of her sweater, eyes wide with something that almost looked like regret. I didn't answer. She hesitated, glancing down. "I miss you. I miss us." I let out a short laugh, shaking my head. "You miss us? You mean before or after you started sneaking around with Ethan at 3 a.m.? She flinched. "I was stupid, okay? I wasn't thinking. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." "You didn't mean to cheat?" I asked, tilting my head. "You didn't mean to kiss him? To sneak him into my house?" Lisa swallowed, her eyes glossy. "It wasn't serious." I took a slow breath, then stepped closer, just enough for her to hear me clearly. "It was serious enough for you to risk everything," I said. "Serious enough that you admitted you were using me, that you planned to leave me once you got what you wanted." Her face crumbled. I shook my head. "You don't miss me, Lisa. You miss the security. You miss the stability. You miss the life I gave you." She reached out, her fingers barely brushing against my wrist. "Please." I stepped back, and without another word, I walked inside and shut the door in her face. That was the last time I saw her, at least in person, because as Lisa faded into the past, Ethan's world was about to completely collapse. Ethan's downfall. I hadn't planned on ruining his career, but when I heard the news, I can't lie, I smiled. It started with whispers. People at work talking about his lack of integrity, his tendency to lie. No one wanted to be associated with him anymore. And then, one afternoon, I got a message from an old mutual friend. "You won't believe this. Ethan got fired." I read the words twice. Then a slow grin spread across my face. I sent back a simple response. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. Turns out, his boss had heard about his personal drama, how he had stabbed his own best friend in the back. And in a company built on trust and teamwork? That didn't sit well. Ethan was given a quiet exit, told to pack up his things, and was gone by the end of the day. And the best part? Lisa wasn't even there for him anymore. They had turned on each other the moment things went south. Ethan lost everything. And I was just getting started on my new life. A future without them. It's been 6 months now. I've rebuilt. I have my house, my peace, and my future back in my hands. I started traveling, doing the things I always put off when I was trying to build a life for someone else. Lisa and Ethan? They become ghosts of a past I no longer care about. Lisa moved to another city, probably trying to escape the shame of what she did. Ethan? Well, let's just say karma isn't done with him yet. The final message. Last week, I got one last text. From Ethan. "Ethan, I don't know if you'll even read this, but I'm sorry. I lost my job, my friends, my reputation. I don't have Lisa anymore. I guess I just wanted to say, you were a better friend than I ever deserved." I stared at the message for a long time. Then, finally, I typed a response. "Me, you're right." And then, I blocked him. For good. Because I was done. Done wasting energy on people who never deserved me in the first place. And for the first time in a long time, I was truly happy. Some betrayals break you. But some, they just set you free. I thought I was done. I had walked away from the chaos. I had moved on with my life. But some people, they don't know when to stop. Lisa and Ethan had already lost everything. Their reputations, their relationships, their futures. But fate wasn't finished with them yet. And neither was I. A surprise encounter. It happened when I least expected it. I was at a new restaurant in town, celebrating a promotion with some coworkers. Things were finally falling into place for me again. Then, across the room, I saw her. Lisa. She was sitting alone at the bar, staring down at an empty glass, stirring the ice with a straw. She looked different, tired, worn out, like life had knocked her down, and she hadn't figured out how to get back up. I should have ignored her. But some part of me was curious. So I sent the waiter over with a message. A simple napkin with 2 words written on it. "You lost." From across the room, I watched as the waiter placed it in front of her. Lisa's eyebrows furrowed as she read it. Then she looked up, scanning the restaurant. Her eyes landed on me. And for the first time since our last conversation, I saw realization hit her like a brick wall. I simply raised my glass, then turned away. By the time I checked again, she was gone. Ethan's final mistake. A week later, I got another text. But this time, it wasn't from Lisa. It was from Ethan's ex-fiancée, the woman he had been with before ruining his life for Lisa. Emily, I know we haven't talked in a while, but I thought you'd want to know. Ethan's in serious trouble. I raised an eyebrow. Me? What kind of trouble? She sent me a link. A local news article. Man arrested for fraud at former workplace. Investigation reveals misconduct tied to falsified financial documents. I scrolled further, and there it was. Ethan's name. His mugshot. I leaned back, exhaling. The guy just couldn't stop digging his own grave. Emily messaged again. Emily, they found out he was doctoring expense reports to cover for personal spending. Guess when his boss fired him, they started looking deeper. He could be facing serious charges. Me, sounds like karma. She replied with a laughing emoji. Emily, thought you'd enjoy that. Hope you're doing well. You deserve it. For the first time in a long time, I really smiled. I didn't need revenge anymore. The world had already taken care of that for me. The true victory. A few nights later, I stood outside my house, looking up at the stars. For the first time in months, I felt completely at peace. No more anger. No more pain. No more wondering why people betray the ones who love them most. Lisa and Ethan had spent so much time thinking they were winning, thinking they were smarter than me, thinking they could have everything. But in the end, they lost. And I was still standing, still thriving, still free. Some people destroy themselves. All you have to do is let them. I thought it was over. Lisa was out of my life. Ethan was dealing with his own destruction. And me? I had finally moved on. But some ghosts? They don't stay buried. And Lisa was about to prove that. The unexpected call. It happened on a quiet evening. I was home, enjoying a drink on the back patio, listening to the sounds of the night. Then my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I hesitated, then answered. Hello? Silence. Then a familiar voice. Soft. Desperate. Hey. Lisa. I almost hung up, but something in her tone stopped me. She sounded broken. Not the confident, manipulative woman who had once played me for a fool. This was someone who had lost everything. What do you want, Lisa? I asked flatly. She inhaled sharply, like she was trying to hold back tears. I don't know, she admitted. I don't have anyone else to talk to. Not my problem. I stayed silent. I messed up, she continued, her voice cracking. I lost you. I lost my friends. I lost my home. I don't even have Ethan anymore. I smirked at that. So now you're calling me? I asked, shaking my head. After everything? She exhaled shakily. I just wanted to hear your voice. I clenched my jaw. This wasn't about regret. This was about loneliness. Lisa had burned every bridge, and now she was standing in the ashes, realizing she had nothing left. I don't think you understand something, I said coldly. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your safety net. You made your choices. Now you get to live with them. She sniffled. I wish we could go back. I laughed bitterly. There is no we anymore, Lisa. Silence. And then, in a whisper, do you hate me? I paused. I should. I had every reason to. But the truth? I didn't hate her. I just didn't care anymore. And that was the real victory. No, I said simply. I don't hate you. But I don't feel anything for you either. I could almost hear her heart breaking. Goodbye, Lisa. And with that, I hung up, then blocked her number for good. The final goodbye. That was the last time I ever heard from Lisa. She vanished after that, at least from my life. Some people told me she moved away. Others said she tried dating again but could never hold a relationship. And Ethan? Well, last I heard, he was still dealing with legal trouble, still trying to dig himself out of the mess he created. As for me, I never looked back, because when you finally let go of the past, the ghosts stop haunting you. The best revenge is moving forward without them. It's been a year now, a full 12 months since I walked away from the wreckage of my past and started rebuilding my life. 12 months since I last saw Lisa, since Ethan lost everything, since I finally realized that some people aren't worth saving. And now, I don't just feel free, I feel alive. Where they are now, People still ask me sometimes, have you heard from Lisa? Whatever happened to Ethan? And the truth is, I don't care. But from what I have heard, Lisa is still struggling. She tried dating, but word spread about what she did. People don't trust her. She moved in with her sister, but they don't get along. She wanted stability, security. But now, she has nothing. And Ethan? Well, his fraud case went to trial. He avoided jail time, but his career is ruined. No company will hire him. No one trusts him. He had everything once. A good job, a fiancé, a best friend who would have done anything for him. And now, he's alone. Because that's what happens when you betray the people who actually care about you. My new life. As for me, I've never been better. I got promoted, moved to a better place, started traveling, living life on my own terms. And for the first time in years, I feel happy. Not because I got revenge, not because I ruined them, but because I chose myself. I chose to walk away, to let karma do the work, to stop holding on to people who only wanted to take from me. And that was the best decision I ever made. The final lesson. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's this. Betrayal doesn't destroy you. It reveals who was never meant to stay in your life. Lisa and Ethan thought they were winning, that they were getting away with it. But the truth? They were just setting themselves up for failure. And me? I walked away stronger, happier, and finally at peace. Because in the end, the best revenge isn't ruining them. It's watching them ruin themselves. While you move on to something better. The end. Some betrayals hurt, but the right ones? They set you free.